Okay, guys, Sam here with you on Wednesday, November 14th. It's about middle of the day here, and of course, we're going to get an update here on Bitcoin. But before we do, I just wanted to mention here just something we've launched just recently here. So, for any of you that have been considering joining our membership and getting access to the members Discord, the bell trading system, all that kind of stuff. Of course, we've had the public Discord, but we're now offering a 3-day trial, right? So you can come in, you've got access for 3 days for $7 is what we're doing that for. Now, if you like it, you want to stay, then it will renew at our monthly price, but it's a way to come in, kind of get a sampling of the community, the content that's there. It's not 100% full access, but you'll get roughly 85% of it. Few things that we are holding back here, just I guess you can understand why here. So it's just not fair to the existing members. But if you want to come in and just get a feel for the community, interact with some of the senseis, with me, or any of my trading coaches, that's a good way to come in and do it. Get a feel for it before you make that commitment to the monthly investment. So I just wanted to mention that. You will find a link both on our Twitter feed as well as underneath this video. So again, 3 days for $7, and that will give you at least a good sense of what we're all about. All right, with that, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Well, we've had a breakout of the range, so let's take a look at Bitcoin here and see if we can make some sense of where we are, where we might be going next, and how we might deal with this little break. Not so little, actually. Here it looks a little smaller on the daily chart here. So to that point, what I always suggest people do is when you've had this kind of substantial break is clear your chart, get everything off, and just go to the simplest thing you can do, which is let's just identify some potential areas of possible support, right? It's always just that, it's potential support. So if we look here, again, nothing fancy, just prior pivots where we might find some support. Now, you will note that it wouldn't be terribly surprising that we have these nice low volume nodes here, right? So we don't have market acceptance here. Now we have a little pocket here before we do come into an area of market acceptance. So as many of you know, the idea with where you're looking at pivot or low volume nodes, the market is either going to come down and reject those quickly because we don't have market acceptance, or it cuts through them like butter and goes to where we do have market acceptance. Now I have just the visible range here, but you can see here we have market acceptance here, right? But we're kind of in between where you might look for that support. So you want to be aware of these, right? So let's note these here, and whether you're looking at volume profile or just using the pivots, those are areas of interest. Let's phrase it that way. Now, to some degree, this should be not terribly surprising, right? And we've been through this, I don't know how many dozens of times. We knew there was a lot of weight here on the market because we have all these algo cells with targets that had been unrealized. So if we just start drawing them up, there's the first one. All right, so here's our swing high, swing low, there's the 50, there's our target. Okay, we just keep this going. And of course, we're just going to use the pivots where we got a technical reaction. All right, so here's that one. All right, so here that target is yet to be realized. Then we go to the next one. So this has been just perfectly, perfectly technical as we've moved lower. So it's either been a 50 or a golden zone that we have tagged here. So there's another golden zone. In fact, there's another one here, but we've already gone through that. So if we just look at these major algo targets here, well, this is certainly an area of interest. Now what's the range there? That's from 52.80 to 47, call it 80. So it's a roughly $100 range right there between those two algo targets, and then splitting them, of course, is our little pivot here, and our low volume nodes centered around those two algo targets. So, then you go, is that coincidence? Well, some people like to think that. I would tell you it's not. Now, to also note down here that we have the secondary targets. So we have, let's see if I wiggle this here so you can see it. So if I wiggle that here, do you see that green line here that I tagged from here? So this is the longer term target from the dominant, right? So big swing here to that 50. Here's that 23.6. It's on top of the 618 from the second one. after we hit that 50 to this golden zone. So we have multiple, so this would certainly be a last stand here for support. All right, so potentially coming all the way down here. That's that $3,200 level that we've talked about. You've heard my partner talk about it many times, as that this is where potentially now a target for us coming off of these lows. So do we go that far? It's hard to say now at this point here. So this will be a substantial test, is what kind of reaction do we get here? You know, so with those identified here, I'm going to just try and clear up the chart here. So and again, we've been through those, and I don't know how many different times in videos. There was always that idea that this was going to be weight on the market, as all those sells, all those targets are unrealized. Now, the very last one we got here, I think it's this one here. Okay, all right. So let's see if I zoom in here. Maybe let's go. Let me go down. Let me try an 8 hour so you can see that a little bit better. Let me open that up. So from this last one we have here, where right, everybody's looked at this 100 times. Right, we went 50. Now we're through the first target. We're not to second target just yet. Now, even if you pull this down and use the lower low here, we're through the first, but we've got second target. So, we got this established down here. Our second target here is unrealized. Now, fortunately, the bad news here is that this level here that has become that, well, we've got multiple levels. Let me do it this way. All of this area here that we've been sort of stuck in here. Now this, in addition to, if we kind of do it this way here, all of this now becomes the resistance as we come back up. So having broken that, we got to get now. So first one will be right here, this dominant pivot here. That will be resistance. That's 5850. That's got to hold. 6,000 was the psychological level here. So that is likely to be resistance, which could potentially drive us down towards some of these lower targets. So, you know, first thought is we need to see a reaction here. What happens just at this first major pivot here, right? So can I get that over here? Yep. So you see it off of this low. Let me tighten that up. So here, as I'm on GDAX here, so what do we got there? That's 5861. So first question is, what happens when we get back there and retest that? Can we get through it, or are we just going to come up here, bump into it, and start heading lower? Don't be surprised if you see that, because of course this process of algo pulls is going to continue. So let me pull this off here. So we have. Now let's do this one here. This is the last pivot we have here. Now eventually, I don't know that we have the pivot here, but eventually we're going to get a pivot. All right, we're going to start to come back up and head towards these levels. So just to get to that 50, which we know will be resistant. We know we don't have to wonder. We know software will kick in there to try and sell with that as their target. Now, if we go higher, right, I mean, possibility we come up here. Now, note where we're going. Now we get to the golden zone, right? Target doesn't change. So you've got two areas here. So if we just kind of fatten this up, here is your next trading opportunity, right? Now, I'm not one for shorting crypto, or particularly Bitcoin either, because I'm long so much Bitcoin, right? I'm not selling today, but it's sort of not the point here. It's not about what I'm doing. It's what does the chart tell us? Where's the next trade? Well, if you're comfortable going short, you certainly are going to have a sell setting up here. Right? There's no question that there will be software participating. There will be an algorithm that will participate here in this sell zone with this as their target. That target being 5,200. Remember, 5,200 was an area we had talked about as a potential target for some of these algo pulls repeatedly. So there you go. Right. So you see the confluence we get down here at this 5,200 level. So then, of course, you want to start thinking about some market geometry. Is there anything that we can use here to help us? Well, it's getting a little tougher now. So, of course, we can do a channel like this. So we work that from this. I'm just going to put that right there. So we get some center line. You could do it let's get this right on that pivot. You could do it through a modified shift pitchfork, which essentially give you the exact same thing, right, as I've shown this before. So we just want to have some idea. Let's get modified shift on there as to where we might be going. That's going to be too steep. So let me rephrase. Let me do this again. Here. So this is our It's going to go this way. So we might look at it this way. We've still got the inside on there. So let's go to shift. That looks like that might catch us. So we've got a channel here off of with their slightly different pivots. But so we have, you know, contenders down here for some framing. Sorry, pull that off. So is this going to catch it? Or is it going to be, are we going to have to use something like this? All right, we're just it's kind of a hunt process. You're kind of looking, where could it be? All right, well, we're through that. So it doesn't quite look like the smaller ones have enough to frame it, but this is of interest here. So if this is going to continue, let me clear this up. If we're going to continue to head lower, this is a likely spot for us to anticipate finding some technical support now. All right, so the thought being that you might, if we see a retrace to come back to this level of prior support, now becomes the resistance and we're heading down here, that's a reasonable path that we might anticipate. Now it's beyond this algo target, but we're coming right back to that prior support. So it's the level from the further pull, from the pull that's higher. So let me reset here. So we get this back put together. All right, so if we go here to here, all right, now let me pull this up. All right, so we've got multiple targets down here. So I'm trying to use the median line to help us identify where we might look for some support. And there's nothing that's really perfect off of the pivots that we're choosing. So, you know, whether you could just be working with some trend lines here, that's not a bad thought, or you could do it as a channel. You're just looking for some structure from the market to help us identify where we might find some support. Right now, we're just in a free fall. So the assumption has to be that if it's going to just continue to go, we're going to seek some of these algo targets. And if we can find those in conjunction with some structural support, as we just looked at, from some of these prior pivots, these prior pivot highs, you got to anticipate that those are going to be likely targets. Come here. All right, so this area here, so this is 52.75. I'd be watching there. Now, as I will often tell members, and I was reiterating this in our day trading room today, where we're typically focused on the S&P. This is something that was taught to me years ago, and it's a simple concept, but when the markets are free falling like this and your temptation is to be a buyer, this would be the same as the market is flying higher. The saying that you should keep kind of in the back of your mind if you're tempted to make a buy down here. Buyers at lows create new lows. Sellers at highs create new highs. And the simple thinking behind that is that anyone you're trying to pick the bottom down here, right? So you're going to have a stop underneath the market. So if you don't get the turn exactly, right? Eventually, some buyers are going to step in here will cause the retrace. But why be that hero? Why try and make that hero play? Because if you're a buyer down here, you're putting stops underneath the market. If you don't get the turn perfectly, those stops all the way under, wherever they are, those stops are fuel for shorts, right? So those become additional sells. So if you're a buyer here, you've got your stop, that's a sell, that's fuel, right? That's why you often see these moves and they accelerate at major pivots as those stops are hit. That's fuel for the shorts, right? Those are new sell orders as longs are covering with sell orders. All right, so I always tell people that, sure, at a technical level here, you might put a little toe in trying to get that turn. It's a very high risk play. So, my suggestion is always, why try and be the hero? If you get a pivot down here, let's just for the sake of the discussion, say we got a pivot here. If you want to be a buyer, let somebody else make the hero play down here. Wait for that and take the first retrace if you want to be a buyer. Right? At least at that time, you've got a higher low to work with and potentially a higher high. So if you're taking that retrace, you have a clear point where you know where you're out, right? Again, stops will be underneath that pivot. So if it comes down and you get stopped out, that's fuel for those shorts, right? That are pressing, because they're always, Right, that's what creates the B and the 2. It's always a press to get to those. If the market is strong enough, it will be resisted and the buyers will take it back up. If the market's not strong enough, those stops that will be right under that pivot are the fuel to take it down. So my suggestion is, rather than make that hero play here, let the market react. If, right? So obviously, if we get a pivot down here, I don't know where our low is. If shit, for all we know, it's already in, right? This could be it. So let it come back up here and catch the upper edge of this channel or this trend line, however you're thinking it. Wait for the retrace. You want to be a buyer? Okay, no problem. Well, understand that if this is taken out, we're likely getting acceleration to head down. So be careful with that thinking. It's sure, that's the, great. You can post it on your Twitter feed and your big hero. Yeah, you caught the turn. Yeah, so, but then you try it again, right? So the more times you do that, the more likely you are to, over the long term, end up with more losers than winners. How about we say it that way, right? So you would certainly want to be tight with the stop. But again, why try and make the hero play? There's just no reason to do it. There's going to be, if we get a bounce here and we start to come back, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to get on the long side. Where's the next trade? Well, no question, the next trade is on the sell side. Again, but that assumes that you're comfortable going short. So whether you pull it from here, from this pivot, which is the first one I would use, to wherever when we get this low, we don't know that that's the low, but when we get a low and we get some sort of a reasonable push off of that low, and we get something coming up here right now, if that were the low, well, look where the point of control is. Right? That's one of those must takes, right? So again, assuming you're comfortable being short, that's not something I do. But if you're looking for the next opportunity, technically, it's staring you right in the face. Now, again, we don't know where this pivot is. We don't know if that's the pivot low. But eventually, we're going to make a pivot and we're going to see a retrace. If for no other reason than the shorts that caught this are going to want to take profit. That profit taking, those are buy orders, that can start the retrace. Then as it starts to come up, shorts start to cover. Those are buy orders. That's what creates the retrace. So we come up here, then this is going to be an interesting test. Well, if we're going swing high to swing low, well, we got this as well. So you got multiples here. So you start looking for confluence. Well, if I go from this one, do I have any confluence here? Well, now I'm on an 8 hour. Let's go down. Let's try a 3 hour here. See what this looks like. Is there any confluence amongst those pivots? Well, not really, because they're fairly far apart given the distance from this pivot to this pivot. All right, so for now, you do get some structural support here. So we have all of this prior support that was here likely to kick in as resistance. So if we start to come back up here, this is going to be stiff resistance, right? With the intention for that to come back down. All right, as this target will be here. So when we start to get retracement, we know software we don't have to wonder about it. We know software will kick in there and start to sell with that as their target, right? These guys, right? They're still short. They don't get out of the market until they get to that target. But that's right. That's why they write algorithms to do that, because it's so hard for us to do that, right? It's just the temptation is so great. So you write software to do it that's emotionless, doesn't care, doesn't give a shit what Elliott count, this pitchfork. They're just going to stay short until they get their target, right? And they've been short for the entire year since that very first retrace. These guys, this whatever, we don't know who's behind it, right? All we know is that it leaves a footprint. So these guys, they've been short since, February. They are not touching that until they get, well, there's only two possible outcomes. Either they get stopped out here on the break of that 65, or they stay short until they get that target down here, which happens to be 3,200, which has been talked about many, many times. So here, that's what they've got in mind. So, right, there's only two outcomes here with regards to whatever software was written. Whoever's behind that, we don't know who's behind it, but they stay short until they get there. Or they get stopped out, and then we go the other direction. But right now, 3,200, certainly in the realm of possibility, right? If you were just looking at the dominant swings, that's the next target, which, as you'll recall, was in line with, can I scrunch there up? All right, with this last little bit of potential, right? It's always just that potential support from prior resistance levels that turned into support levels that now may again be support levels. We going there? You know, it's hard to bet against it, right? So I sure would like to see a reaction here at some of these lower algo targets. You'd want to see something substantial before you start, you know, kind of salivating about the idea of being a buyer here. Oh shit, I can buy Bitcoin under 6,000. Yeah, I appreciate the temptation there. But right now we're just in a free fall. Even if you go, let's go to the hourly. This now, so look there, right? So that, I mean, this is just a free fall. Now I was doing some ranging to see if we could get a handle on this because the ranging has been pretty responsive here. So I did two things. I just took the initial range here from this swing low, right? We as I showed in a video, I think it was Monday, we had a perfect technical pivot here. I'm just working from this range, saying, okay, well, is there anything I can identify down here? Well, let me do them one at a time. So from the first one here, from this range here was kind of the range we'd been in. Yeah, we had some outliers here. Well, we just blow. So we had a little reaction here at the minus 50. We blow right through the minus 100, but we're getting a reaction at the minus 150. So potentially. Now you kind of, it's a little bit of a, you know, you're searching for where do I see a reaction? So I did the same thing here as this was the last upswing. Now the way I have the wolf range written, I have to pull backwards to get that. Let me change it because I'm projecting lower. So here's the two. So again, here from this range here, so you can see this. Oh, let's see. So if I do it this way, so you can see from here on this edge here, this is this range coming down. Here's the negative 200, right? Both of these, they blew right through the negative 100. But we're getting a reaction here. We see the bounce. Here's this little pocket down here between the minus 150 of the larger range and the minus 200 of the smaller range here. Now we're getting a reaction. So where would you anticipate that we're going to, so remember Gann's theory was that it moves harmonically, right? So if we're going to come here, this is going to be something like, we don't know what it looks like, but likely to move between these zones if we're going back up. So those are the kind of things you can anticipate. So somewhere on your chart would be a good idea to have that so you can look for these potential range expansion pivots to kick back in. Now we get enough of a push here, we can start ranging from the upside. But right now, we're just looking for technical pivots on the low side. There's very little that can be done with a move like that with regards to market geometry on these lower levels. There's, as you might imagine, I've been through these looking for anything, something. Obviously, that's not going to do it. But this, maybe we get the lower pivot. I went modified shift as well. There's a bit of a, just you're kind of hunting for it. Where is it? Where can I find some sort of reaction? And then you go, okay, well there's the edge of it. So maybe it's just that process of going, where can I frame the market and where can I use the market's pivots? Let me get that right on there. Where can I use the market's pivots to help me identify where we are? Well, that course seems to be framing it rather nicely. So I have a confluence point down here, the lower parallel from the modified shift. All right, I have the lower parallel here, and then I have this confluence of the range as we expand the range by, in this case, from this range, 200%, right? And the 150 from this range. Now you can keep playing with these, but this until that you're given a reason by the market to change it, I would stay with that. Now, from here, if we think about coming back up, now let me just grab this. If that were our pivot, let's go back to our measured move and look what that looks like. Well, obvious areas that we want to be paying attention to. If we come back up here, well, here's the 50. Note that we're back to the minus 50 here. You see the minus 50 from the ranging that we did. So first question is, can we get through the median line, or does that push us down here to some of these lower targets? If we can get up here, well, here's golden zone. Interesting. Golden zone, right? Are we going to these targets? Double bottom, lower targets. Right? No way to know. So what's the reaction here? Where's the next trade? Well, again, it's kind of the same idea. Where do we have market acceptance? Where is their structure? So this median line, look, we just went right through the median line, but we find support down here on this lower parallel. If we are coming back, just as it works when you're, regardless of the direction, this median line will be a target. So do we get a reaction there? Well, first, let's get off of this low and let's get to the median line. All right, let's see what happens there. Can we get up here and get through this and get to some of these potential algo targets? Now note here, let me take this one off so you can see this a little bit better. And I guess we can take that one off as well, just to make the point here. So if we come back to the 50, well, what's here? Right, we know software will kick in to sell there. Well, we've got that prior pivot there. Right, come up to the golden zone, what's there? All right, so you can just draw them from left to right. Right, we've got all of this, right? So prior support, now becomes the resistance. So if we're coming back up here, right? So here we sit, where are we now? 5,700. If we're coming back up here, the first thing I would use is the dominant pivot before that sell-off. There's the new swing. Here's the 50. Here's the 618. Now note where the 38 is. All right, 38 sitting right at it. But do we have anything left? Well, yeah, we do. So we look here and we're just drawing it left. Here's my box here. So if I just take, well, I guess I could do this. We just pull it left. Guaranteed, that's resistance. So now you have a setup here where you're coming up to this with all of this resistance here. So first one, this one is not insignificant. Here's our prior low, right to the pivot at the 38. If this is impulsive, right, so now think about an Elliott count. Okay, so all right, it's fairly easy to spot this one. So we could potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. We'd have a nice clean impulse. Right, big 3, here's the impulsive move. Here's the retrace right to the 38 and the median line. So how do we look for, if that's the 1 and that's the 2, right, where's the highest probability zone for a third? Right between the 1618 and the 175. Right, so it's hard to argue with this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so this was absolutely perfect. So it's that process of going, okay, clear the chart. What can I use? What do I have to help me identify where is likely support? Can I frame the market? Can I range the market? Can I find the median lines that the market seems to be responding to? If I can identify that, is there an Elliott count? If there's an Elliott count, where are we? Well, regardless of where we are in the larger picture, this move here sure looks like we've just started an impulsive structure to complete something. Something's completing down here. We don't know for sure that it's completing, but odds are there's a 5-wave structure that is teed up to be completing. And we've just done a pretty textbook, so if you'll look at here, if that's the 1, right, where's our 2? Where's the highest probability zone for our 2? Right between the 50 and the 618. So this is just a textbook impulsive structure, right? So yeah, not quite freak out level, but don't be surprised if the lower prices to come. Now note down here, we're at 5,300, so we're coming all the way back to that range where we started on the larger time frame at that 50, well, we had that $100 range from 5,200 to 5,300. So it's all just laying down just as you might expect it. So there's your new roadmap, right? Which does not suggest that that's a low. That's everybody's freaking out, but capitulation, not yet. Not yet. I come down here, maybe. Right, this bounce back, that will keep hope alive. So we don't have capitulation yet. It could be coming sooner than you think, but we're not there yet. That's not enough to do it. And this has to complete. Let me rephrase that. Odds are this will complete. Nothing has to happen, but the odds are, the probable path, let me put it that way, the probable path. Well, now we want to look for an ABC here, right? We don't want to just take the first pivot. So we want to look for something that would give us some idea of structure here. So if we can get a 3-wave correction. Now, so first move up here may not do it. Now, just so if you assume that's the A wave of the 4th wave here, that doesn't mean you couldn't trade it. All right, but don't be surprised if you've got this kind of thing happening here. All right, so you might get an A, B, maybe the B is going higher. Remember, here's our 1. So this certainly could go higher. Let me clear some of this up here. All right, so you could very easily see just the A wave take it back and then come up towards the 50 and then come down to this zone. All right, so pay attention to this structure here, because if you want to trade that, you could trade, if you're trading on the long side, you could trade the B into the C, right? You know where your stop is, right? But remember, if this starts to come down and we come down to these levels, that's fuel. The stops underneath that will be the fuel. So there you go. That's kind of a good, working framework of what to expect, and based on what I can share with you. It's not an insignificant break, but this now we're into a pattern here that's more likely to complete than not, and that would suggest 5,200 is a reasonable target down here. And that is not me saying be a buyer down here. That is me saying that's a likely area of support, and if we get a reaction down here, wait for the 1, 2 and buy the 2. Don't try and pick the turn. It's just not worth the risk. All right, guys, with that, I will wrap there. I think we did some polling here, and oh, shit, my marketing guy's going to be pissed here. I was supposed to tell you that we have, I always forget this. So we've got this 3-day trial going on. So if you can find that over on our Twitter feed, and I'll have it posted underneath this video with a link to it. So if you wanted to come in and take a cruise around our members Discord, we're doing a 3-day trial for $7 to get you in here, so you can just get a look at it. You won't have access to everything, but you'll have enough to where you can make a reasonable evaluation as to whether or not it's a community and a methodology that would appeal to you. All right. So with that, I will wrap here. It looks like I'm back with one other coin, as we've done some polling from the members. All right, guys. See you later.